For the next 6 months, I'm going to be taking the Weaver's Journey. It is a deep dive into devotion and magical practice with the Divine Mother, the Lady of the Bones. In this video, I'm going to talk about how this even started, the path that she laid out, the tools that I'm going to be using throughout, and sharing it day by day. What happens, the messages I get, the lessons that come up, the understandings, and hopefully answering the question that started it all. So grab your drink, settle in, and let's get started. So first, I think we need to begin with a story. A little over a month or so ago, I did a consuming ritual. And I did this with my soul coven. If you don't know what a soul coven is, I've written about it before and spoke about it before, but it basically is the deities, ancestors, spirits that you work with that are consistent in your practice and that have come together as like a spirit coven. And so I call that a soul coven. And they directed me into this consuming ritual. I did the consuming ritual. It was very powerful. I was very moved by it and learned a lot through it. I shared it within the temple in my sister's group. And afterwards, it brought up a question about devotion. When we think about devotion, we think about our time and our energy. We think about our emotional bond in devotion to whoever we are devoted to. We think about the actions, a lot of action oriented when it comes to devotion, exchange, offerings, things of this nature. But I had this pull, this tug, this feeling. There's something missing. There's some depth to it. Or maybe it's not even a depth to devotion, but a depth and a transformation in self through devotion. I'm really not sure, but this became the question around devotion. And what is beyond the surface? Because I feel that a lot of what we talk about, that we do, and even though there's deep emotion, I'm not discounting the deep emotion, but I feel like there's something missing, something not seen, something that I just haven't experienced, haven't explored. I'm not sure. But it started weighing on me after this, after the consuming ritual. And so I started asking questions and talking with the Divine Mother and talking with ancestors. And what it came down to was they ended up giving me a path, a journey to go on. And they gave me very specific tools, how to use those tools for this specific path and purpose, and things to do. So I have daily things to do, and there are aspects of astrology within that. And we're using the Fates dice. I'll get into all the tools shortly. But it gave me a solid direction and a framework to go on this journey and do this discovery. And again, like I said, hope answer my question, but it's a journey. So we'll see. We'll see what happens because I don't know. I don't know where this is leading. I don't know what I'm going to discover. It's technically 6.5 months long. 26 weeks. I've already gone through the first 2 weeks before I decided in this last week that, you know what, I'm going to share this. I'm going to share this raw and as it's happening for a couple of reasons. One, because it's something I'm already doing. It's where I'm at right now, and it's something I'm going through. And like I said, in the previous video when I was talking about I'm going to start this, and just to let everybody know. But the second part is the aspect of, too often we're sharing finished product. We're sharing the end of the journey once we've got everything figured out, and once we, have everything honed down, and, it looks really good and all this. And with social media, I mean, I've been practicing before social media even existed, but I see this thing with social media because it's really curated. It's very much the finished products. There's not a lot of showing or talking about what it's like to actually go through this, because it's not clean. It's messy. There's confusing parts. We get things wrong. We, interpret something wrong one day, and by the end of the day or the next day, it becomes very clear that, oh, they meant this, not this. Anyway, I want to show that part. I want to show the ups and downs of, journeys like this, when we're connecting and working with deities, with spirits, with ancestors, when we're creating magic, when we're creating and spell crafting. So yeah, a lot of that I want to be able to show, to give people a more realistic kind of view of what that looks like. Because when we only show the end products, when we only show when we're done, when we're completed, when we have it nailed down, we tend to give this kind of false narrative. And I know, because I see it in my students, I see it in people I've mentored, and just people within my groups that I talk with. It perpetuates this kind of, oh, I'm not very good, or oh, imposter syndrome, and oh, I must be so dense and bad because, it took me forever to realize this, or understand this piece. And it's because they think that it should be perfect, it should flow easily, everything should be just laid out in place every single time, because we kind of give this impression. Even though we talk about that it's not this, without seeing it, I just don't think it clicks. And so hopefully this journey will help that part, because you're gonna see the confusing times. You're gonna see me make mistakes. You're gonna see me try something and have to adjust it, and recreate something. You're gonna see how I do reflection and how I work in my practice in general. At least from this journey standpoint. I mean, there's lots of parts to my practice, but I'm focusing here. So yeah, this is why I want to do it this way. I want it to be the day to day. And so I'm going to do it that way. On YouTube, I'm going to post a video at the beginning of each of my weeks, setting the stage, and I'll explain when we get into tools, but setting the stage. And then on TikTok, I'm going to go through every single day and record the actual, as it's happening, aspects of this, the daily practice, the reflections, things that may pop up during the day, that kind of thing. And then at the end of the week, because there's a lot of contemplation that's involved in this practice, a lot of reflective work. So at the end of the week, I'm going to compile all the TikTok videos together in one video and do a commentary of reflection of that week. Things that I see now that I've got some hindsight, things that I see as we're coming together, and probably going into other weeks too. Because like I said, I'm 2 weeks into this, and it's been really interesting so far. So using kind of that combination, but no matter where you are, well, if you're on YouTube, you can find it all. So if you want to follow along on the daily stuff, or if you just want to follow along on YouTube and get the full videos there, that's your choice. All the links to my TikTok and YouTube and the Patreon, and the Patreon is the portal into the temple. And my temple group, I'll even be going more in depth, getting a little bit more raw, because it's private. group of people that work together consistently, and we're always sharing. And so I feel very comfortable in some areas to share more there than I'm going to share publicly. But you're welcome to join the temple and, go there too and get even more depth. Completely up to you. But I am going to show the day to day, the growth, the lessons, the things that I go through with this, and the magic that we're creating, because there will be spell crafting, there will be spell casting in this. There always is in my work. Probably not going to be as heavy, at least from my thinking wise. But who knows? Who knows where it's going to go? I really don't. And that is a beautiful thing. I have a framework. I have specific tools that she's laid out that this is what we're going to use and this is how we're going to use them for this journey. And we're just going to take it. We're going to go the 6 months. We're going to see what happens. We're going to see what comes up. So let's get into the tools. So first off, 2 books that have a lot of the information and are really the foundations of this movement. So Grimoire of the Crane has a lot of the Crane astrology, Path of Colors, feeds into the Fates dice. It also has the Soul Runes, Crane Runes, that are magical practice items and also divinatory. And then some foundational perspectives and things just from a crane practice perspective that help you to understand these things. As far as, how to move and how to craft and how to spell craft, things to consider, not telling you what to do, but helping you build your own foundations within that. The second book is The Divine Mother, Lady of the Bones. And within this book has all the components, the devotional components for this journey. One of the key pieces is in her Book of Illuminations within here. There are 26 illuminations, and illuminations are deeper understandings, deeper thoughts to understand her, to understand you, and to understand our world. This is why it is 26 weeks. Each week is focused around one illumination. Really diving deep, thinking about it. All the other things that happen during the week should come back as to this in some way. So this kind of being the foundational core kind of thought as we move through the week. It also has her Book of Contemplations, and contemplations are like small phrases, sayings, a quick understanding of something to dive deeper into for yourself. There are 2 of these each week. So the first 3 days, there's one contemplation randomly chosen, and the second week, there's a second contemplation randomly chosen. And what I've been doing is looking at that and how does it mix with the illumination that I'm working on? What are the aspects, the understandings, or ideas in the contemplation for me to think deeper about, to contemplate? The book also has all of her specific prayers, rosaries, things that are very specific to her. When we say rosary, we're not talking about Catholic rosary here. It's different. You could call it a witch's rosary. You could call it the Mother's Rosary. I just call it the Mother's Rosary. You'll hear me call her the Mother quite often when I'm in prayer or when I am in a devotional act. I'll use Divine Mother, Lady of the Bones. But when I'm talking with her and just in general, you'll hear me call her the Mother. And that's who I'm referring to. So this is what I'm talking about with the Witch's Rosary. You will see that it's a little bit different. The Mother's Rosary is. And I'll explain each piece real quick. So it has its starting point. And some people are going to be like, oh, that's a cross. Okay, let's be honest. Sure. But the cross has been used for a really long time, way even before Christianity and different pagan traditions. Really kind of denotes the four elements, the cardinal directions. This one is more Celtic style, so it's got the circle behind it, which for me is about the cycles, the connection, the unity, the movement. And this particular one has a woman in the center of it, branching out, looking like a tree, and branching and weaving into all of the elements around her. And then the cycles and the movements of time, of energy, of patterns, however you want to look at that. This is hers. This is, how I see her. It's also a reflection of me being the tree. You'll understand that more later. After that, there are 3 beads leading up. So these wooden beads. On each one of these, she has 3 main colors. There's the white, the black, and the red. The white and black are the duality within her 2 sides. The red is her in wholeness and in unity. And there is a prayer for each one of those, a prayer for her white, a prayer for her black, a prayer for her red. And then this is a unity bead. It's also called the splicer bead. And then her decades, she has 6 different decades with their spacer beads. So decade is 10 beads together. One prayer is said through this one. Another prayer can be said through that one with hers, because 3 colors, 6. In my Unity Rosary, it's 2 decades of her white, 2 decades of her black, 2 decades of her red. Together, this forms her Unity Rosary. She has other ones in this book. So there's a healing one and a healing ritual involved that you can do and combine it with. There's her Mysteries Rosary. There's her Common Rosary. There are different rosaries for different things. You also have a petition. You can also use this for spell crafting and weaving your spell throughout. I have a separate one that I specifically use for spellcrafting. You'll eventually see it later, because when I spellcraft using this kind of a tool, I am using soul runes. And the spoken aspect of soul runes, crane runes, it is the voice. And so chanting, singing, and that's how I'm weaving those particular energies together. We'll get into it. Under here, you will see my grimoire. This one contains the prayers and things out of this book that I have specifically in here. It also has other pieces, such as the key to the Fates dice, and then the soul and body runes. I keep my magic in here, spells that I'm crafting, all kinds of stuff. It's my grimoire. I chose this one because it's a binder, and it allows me to move things around and to change things up, to take things out without having to worry, oh, I just ruined a book and stuff, and or this part doesn't apply anymore. It's changed, and I've learned more, and I have more depth or whatever. And so, yeah, I really like the binder idea, and I just love this. This was so beautiful. The next tool are the Fates dice. The Fates dice will be rolled every single morning. They are very much to help give direction and focus for the day. What I'm doing, where we're at, it has actions in it. It has contemplations in it. It has time. So past, present, future, or all of time, or none of time, depending on how you are looking at that. It has the path of colors from the grimoire or the crane, because each color has different things. So, how we think, how we move, primal energies, that kind of thing. And it also has constellation energies. When we're talking about the sky clock and the ecliptic constellations, They are not the same as regular astrology. This is crane astrology. And so they have some different energies, different meanings from a constellation standpoint, and different names. So, for example, through this period, I'm not going to be following the moon, the sun, or anything like that. I am really focused in one area of the ecliptic. I am focused on the Weaver constellation, which is the Scorpio constellation, the star Antares within it, and that is the heart of the mother. I didn't realize that, but in ancient Mesopotamia, it's the heart of the mother. When it came up, I had no idea what Antares was, but when she pointed it out, and I was like, okay. And so I did some research. It makes a whole lot of sense. So I'm focused there, and I'm focused in the well. And the well in the sky clock is the Milky Way. It's what divides one side to the other, is the movement of one year to another. Currently because it has restarted at the beginning of the early 2000s, the sun at winter solstice is in the middle of the Milky Way. It is that beginning and the end. It is the well, and it is the representation of the well, that death and rebirth inside the sky clock. So every morning I have got a devotional. I have reading to do and reflect on. I have a journal that I'm journaling the entire thing into, and all my thoughts and stuff. I chose to do it in the journal instead of my grimoire because I want to be able to carry it around easily throughout the day with me and have it so I can keep reflecting back, or as things come up, I can write them down. I will do the Fates dice. That's going to help give some direction, some movement to that. I'm going to look at that particular constellation. I am only going to be paying attention to planetary energies and things as they move through that constellation and through the well. So as they move through the Weaver constellation, as they move through the well, these are the energies that I'm focused on. This is my day-to-day. Doing reflections on that. How are these planetary energies interacting with me in this way? And using my own birth chart according to crane practice and what that looks like, and how I connect to those planetary energies. And then how are they showing up day to day when they are in this alignment? As far as, conversation, I am only using tarot and oracle for conversation. It's not going to be a divinatory practice for me. That's going to be a lot more trance and a lot more spirit walking. Conversation is when I don't have time to get into those spaces, or maybe I just want some direction before I get into those spaces, or just want to have conversation because I like my tarot and oracle cards. So for conversation, I am using, for the mother, I'm using the Seasons of the Witch Winter Tarot. This is a new one, and it just came out, and I am loving it. It is really, really resonant with me and with her, that frozen kind of period, that water, because she is very much, a representation of the well. She is life and death. She is death and rebirth. She incorporates all of those aspects, and so it's been working beautifully. For my ancestors, so I have one ancestor that I'm really focused on in this journey, and her name is Adeliza. She is one that I've been working with for a while, and she stepped up because devotion is specific to her. And she has things to teach me in this. And the more that we've dived in, the more I'm starting to understand why, and knowing some of her stories and things like that. But this is my ancestral deck that I use to speak with. So again, Seasons of the Witch, but these are the oracle decks. And I did a video not too long ago about explaining how I created this deck. But it's basically, I think, 6 6 of the oracles. Anyway, it's like 9, 10 cards from each of the decks that, really stood out, resonated, that, this is what is going to make up my ancestor deck. I put them all together and created a deck with them. So that's why you're going to see different colors and different styling, but it's all Seasons of the Witch Oracle decks. And that's what I'm going to use when I'm talking with Adeliza and having those conversations. There is another tool there's a couple of tools that I don't have out here right now. First off, in the evening. So in the morning, I have a structured practice, a framework for a structured practice for the morning and how I'm going to go through the morning and how it sets up. And you will see that starting tomorrow morning when I do it. There's also an evening practice. And the evening practice, again, we're going back to that consuming ritual. It's a cacao consuming ritual. And I will be doing that in the evenings. That's when I'll be having any type of conversation during that and doing trance work and reflective work. And then candle. So candle magic is a big part of this, and I'll be using candles quite a bit, and you'll see them on the day-to-day parts. I will have other magical practice that's mixed into this that will have other tools specific for whatever it is that we're crafting. But these are the main tools. These are the day-to-day. This is the framework aspect. I did want to touch on the Mother's Rosary and her prayers real quick, because often we see and think and hear about prayers from a very Christian perspective, and it's about, devotion and giving praise to them. And sure, part of that's in there. But a bigger portion of her rosary prayers, and as you look at them and as you see them, you're going to notice that a lot of it is lessons for us, things for us to incorporate, to become, to resonate in our lives. So, for example, in her red rosary, the prayer is, Divine Mother, I stand fearless in the strength of your power, for it is the abundance all around me. Intuition, passion, and deep emotion is the natural pulse and flow of self-mastery. Loyalty, justice, and sacrifice creates harmony between us. Harmony creates unity. Unity breaks the old by creating new. It's giving us direction. It's giving us a depth of movement. And so as you're looking at the different rosary prayers, as you're moving through, depending on which one you choose, not everybody's going to choose the unity. And when it comes to her, and as we move through the year, she has different seasons of time where, November, for example, is heavily in her black. And so her black rosary is said. In May, it's her white. And so her white rosary said. Then there's the Mysteries Rosary that we go through twice a year. So each one gives us different aspects of her, different lessons for us, different things to incorporate. But they're all teaching us. It's a deepening of devotion and love, but it's also transformation and growth. Video was just kind of give you a heads up, show you some of the tools, show you where some of the information is being pulled, what the framework kind of looks like. And again, I mean, you'll see it. I'm going to record my day-to-day. That way you can see it in action. You can see what happens. You can see how I'm using these things and what happens in this journey. It's like I said, because it started with a question. Where that leads, where we go, what I discover, how I grow on this, I don't know yet, because I haven't taken the journey yet. I'm just starting. So, okay, that's the introduction to all this. That gives you kind of an idea of what you might be seeing and the things you're going to be seeing. Part 2 is going to be the last 2 weeks, because I've already gone through 2 weeks of this. And it wasn't until about the middle of last week that I realized that I want to share this journey. I want to share it as it's happening. And for anybody that, one, just may want to follow along and see what happens, but also, two, anybody that wants to take the journey too, that wants to do these things, that wants to try it out, that wants to see what happens. Everything that we do, I look at like an experiment. We're trying something. We don't know exactly where it's going to go, how it's going to turn out, what's going to change. We could have ideas and thoughts about it, but we don't know until we actually do it. And so if we look at everything like an experiment, then we lose that side that's always, oh, you're going to fail, or, oh, that was a mistake and that's a problem. We lose all that, because every mistake is a learning experience. Everything we do is something that we're trying out to see what works, what doesn't work. How can we shift and move things? What can we change? What can we try again? To see and find what works for us. And that is the most important part of any journey in this life, because we're not all the same. We're all going to work a little bit different. We're all going to have our own experiences, and we all have our own personal connections and how those connections work for us. So, yeah, this is, look at it like an experiment. Look at it like, a journey. And this is going to be my Weaver's journey. I hope you'll follow along. I'm really interested if anybody wants to do this as well, seeing everything and, giving your experiences, your takes, sharing, share with each other. What are you learning? What are you getting from this? Granted, it's my question. It was my start, but the way that it's set up, I can see how anybody can use this if they want to just build bond and connect and move with the Divine Mother, the Lady of the Bones, or if you already have a connection and want to deepen that or want to see where that goes. Maybe you have your own question that you want to apply to this and then just kind of use the framework in that way. Be real interesting. I would love to hear about it, and I would love to hear your experiences and what you're doing too. But nonetheless, I'm going to be sharing. I'm going to be sharing mine, and this is what we're doing for the next 6 months. Have a great one.